Welcome back to the Crosley 307 TA restoration project. Now that the chassis is well on its way to being completely functional, I thought I'd take a look at the cabinet, so I brought it inside because I'm in refinishing touch-up mode. So it's a little different from the RCA version, the same overall control layout of course, but some different styling elements, especially like this, the striped veneer. At least I think could be faux. Yeah, maybe it is because it's a little chipped, but it's in really good condition other than just some minor chipping right on the edge there. Similarly, the center panel, we got a little loss there, a little chip there, a little, well, kind of big scuff there. But otherwise it's in pretty good shape. It has the Crosley name is distinct. I think we can retain this, touch it up a little bit. We'll clean this up, clear coat it, that'll look great. The control decals are pretty darn nice. We do have alligatoring down here, and it kind of oxidizes underneath, and that's why it's lighter in color. That's the finish deteriorating. Really not a whole lot you can do about that. So I'm just going to leave it again and clear coat it, protect it. And the sides, similarly, pretty good shape. What is not in such great shape, the common issue with both the RC and this version is this stuff, the trim, which is just an opaque toner paint, dark brown color. That's really knocked off in a lot of areas. So what I'm thinking I'll do is just touch that up. I mean, mask off the cabinet and overspray that, or I could probably even use a brush and then clear coat over it. Just get some brown paint back on there. And we got a little separation here, also a common issue, but we can take care of that. So really the only thing that's bad is the top, and really that's par for the course for these vintage sets. Yeah, people hung on to them, but they tended to get thrown in the attic, the basement, the garage, and that stuff would get piled on them and they deteriorated over the decades, and the top would take the brunt of that. So yeah, we have all kinds of dings, scrapes, abuse on the top. So all these lighter color areas is where there's finish gone. And it's down to bare wood. So I was doing an RCA recently, which was in similar shape. It actually came back pretty well. Now this, I'm pretty sure, is not mahogany, like all the cabinets I seem to have been doing lately. I think this is walnut, or it's certainly a lighter color finish. Not that that's really here nor there, just also interesting that it's face cut veneer, where so much of what I see is quarter cut. Quarter cut is, we have the really fine spacing between the grain lines, whereas when you see a big open, the big swirls, that's face cut veneer. So we have that on either sides. The center, usually on the RCAs it'd be like book matched veneer, meaning it'd be a mirror image split down the middle. This is deteriorated so much, it's a little hard to tell. I think it's just quarter cut. Well, you can see it on the end here when the finish is gone, that it is just stripey. But yeah, I mean, it's a little hard to touch up finish when there is no finish. So what to do? Well, as with the other sets in this guy's collection, we talked about me fixing these sets. We didn't talk about refinishing cabinets. Typically, regardless of the customer, I clean them up. I'll do the Gojo and Howard's and throw some wax on there. But as far as full-on refinishing, and honestly, most people, it really doesn't come up. They don't want it refinished because they like the old look, and I totally agree with that. But there's also an issue of just conserving it, because you never want to have raw wood, because if anything spills on it, it just soaks right into the wood, and then bad things can happen. It can get really badly stained, it can pop off the remaining finish, can warp the veneer. So I at least want to clear coat it. So we'll see. I'll do the Gojo. I might have some walnut Howards. I can wipe it down with to get a little color into the exposed areas, and we'll clear coat it, see what happens. What I could potentially do... Well, it turns out this finish is far more deteriorated than I realized, so the decision as to what to do with it is pretty simple. This is just coming off with some masking tape. So I am going to refinish it. I will try very, very hard to retain the decals on the front, but the rest of it, I mean, it's... Well, so on the plus side, the underlying veneer looks to be in excellent condition, and it certainly is easy to strip, so I probably won't even need to break out any chemicals. I don't think I've ever stripped a cabinet just with masking tape before. Whatever's left, I'm sure I can just pop off very, very easily. So what happened? This must have been in a humid environment for a long time, which causes the finish to detach from the underlying wood. Couldn't have been too damp though, because the veneer hasn't delaminated and there's no mildew or anything like that. Check that out. This is nothing special, it's just plain old cheap masking tape. Look at that pretty face cut walnut veneer underneath. I'm pretty darn sure it's, I mean, basically 99% of cabinets were mahogany or walnut. The exception is the occasional maple, but there aren't too many of those. Alright, so I think the grain filler is pretty deteriorated too. I think it has some walnut grain filler. Just finished removing the finish from the top board. I've never had a finish come off so easy. I used tape to get most of it off, and then a simple putty knife to flake off the rest of it. And then a quick wipe down with some lacquer thinner, and there we go. Yeah, it's got some nicks and dings, but it's a nice slab of wood. And you know, that's not veneer, or at least I'm not sure. And it's plywood, but it kind of looks like the top layer is just what we're looking at. I just finished removing all the traces of the old lacquer from the top center board. I've never stripped something so easily. I used tape for most of it, then a putty knife to flake off the rest. Quick wipe down with lacquer thinner, and there we go. Yeah, it's got some nicks and dings, but it's a nice old slab of wood. Now, for this is going to be a little bit trickier. Oh, and this is heavy. This is a massive slab of wood and glass. Tricky because of the way it's constructed. On the back side, I want to take the glass out. I got to take the glass out. They put a rubber gasket over it and stapled it in place. No screws. So I got to pry those staples out, and then I hope it comes apart. And check out the construction on this. It's not even plywood. This is just a massive slab of some type of hardwood. I don't know. Usually they use poplar for secondary wood, but this is so dang heavy it could even be oak or something. I don't know. But as soon as I get the glass out, this I want to try to preserve because of the Crosley decal. Now there are places like Radio Days that make reproduction decals, and they might have, I know they have Crosley decals for the radios, but the question is if they have one that matches it. This if they had one that matched this exactly, I'd be inclined to just go ahead and strip this. You can see that finish is just waiting to fall off. It's so alligatored and checked. Well, at least one thing is working out so far. Wasn't too hard to pull out the staples with some needle nose pliers and then carefully pry this up. And behind that rubber gasket, the safety glass is held in by screws. Now the safety glass, it's several pieces of glass laminated with a plastic membrane between the two, and it is developing defects, which is not at all uncommon. So that will probably be kind of visible when watching the set. I don't have the means to cut safety glass. Could use plexiglass potentially. or, well, regular plate glass, but then you lose kind of the safety factor. So I'll see what the owner wants to do for now. I'll just assume we're going to keep this. It could be replaced at any time, after the set's refinished and all that. But the good thing for now is I just take out these 4 little screws, take the glass out, and then I can try to retain the finish on the other side. Well, now, Radio Days does have Crosley decals in the proper dimension. It says they're 2 inches across for the larger one, and that is just where it is on that center board. So, game on. I'm going to order up a set, and we're going to refinish that center panel. The Crosley decal has been ordered. What I'm working on now is steaming the top panel. Yeah, you heard me right. It's an old technique to get nicks and dings out. This won't work if you have wood loss, but if it's a compression, like something struck it and left a mark, if you get it wet, force some heat onto it, force steam into the grain, you can open it up and lift marks out. Like there was a marked line running down through here. It's just about leveled out. So what I'm doing is I've been putting water directly on the wounds and then putting paper towel folded over a couple layers thick on top of it and then steaming it. I've done this before with the iron filled with water and letting steam come out, but it seems to work a little more effectively like this, because if you have the whole iron filled, steam will come out along the whole bottom and go all over the place. I just want to get it into those particular areas. The idea is it forces steam down into the grain and the wood fibers swell back out, and the ding goes away. And just coincidentally, I was watching hacks, household hacks on YouTube, like a compendium, and the guy was steaming his cutting board with an iron and a damp towel. Same idea. He recommended you like once a month to get all the knife marks out of it. So this was pretty distressed, and it's working fairly well. You can still see them, but they're more leveled out. So, of course, steaming the raw wood, it's raising the grain, it's getting uneven. So once this dries out, I'll spray it with shellac to seal it, and then sand it down, which should make these a lot less visible. Alright, now for the front of the main body. Been really anxious to get this clear coated and protected because I want to preserve these decals. Now, Radio Days has Crosley reproduction decals, and they have repo decals for the controls for the RCA version, which are similar but subtly different. And since these are in quite good condition, I really want to preserve them. So what I did is I scraped off what was left on the trim, and I masked off the grill cloth, which is glued right to the wood, and I lightly sanded this with 400 grit around these areas. Now I'm going to hit up with shellac, which should stabilize it while I continue on with the rest of the cabinet, and eventually we'll put some layers of lacquer over that. Shellac basically sticks to everything and everything sticks to it, so it is a fantastic sealer protector layer. Wow, I suspected the decals were in really good condition underneath the deteriorated finish, and oh yeah, this was definitely the right call to make. And the shellac did a good job. There's a little bit of interaction with the old finish. Got a little bit like kind of crinkly, but we'll sand that down. We'll put another layer or two on to completely seal it and sand out the defects, and then we'll go to lacquer. See, the thing about lacquer is the solvents in it are really aggressive, and if put over a finish that's deteriorated, contaminated, it can do really bad things, like really craze an alligator badly and lift off. So that's why I went with the shellac. But yeah, wow, look at that. It's unusual because that's where the knobs are, and that's where you turn, and your fingers go over that and rub and rub and rub, and typically it wears through the finish, wears down into the decals. But dang, they're brand new. All right, what about the top? So here is how that is. So did the steaming completely eliminate the dings? No, nor did I expect it to, nor should you expect it to if you've got some badly dinged up piece of wood. But are they a lot less prominent? Yeah. So after the steaming, I let it dry out, and then shellac, lightly sanded, another layer of shellac. And I'll lightly sand this again, and then we'll move on to some grain filler. But even as it is, this is so much smoother than it was. Beautiful day today, so I have moved operations outside. Not only does it help with the fumes, but the stuff sets up so much faster with all the fresh air and sun shining on it. Plus I can see what I'm doing better, to be honest. Just finished the second pass of grain filler on this board, and my best piece of advice to you is to know when to stop. That's enough. I'm not trying to make this 100% defect free. A couple reasons. One, the more grain filler I put in, the darker it's going to make the depressions. And also the thicker you put this on, the longer it takes to set up, and over time it will still shrink, make crack. This is meant to fill really small voids, not big defects. Could I use wood filler? Yeah, but imagine you have a big depression and you just slop on wood filler with that. It's not going to have grain. It's not going to look the same. It actually makes the defects stand out. Like here, there's a depression in the wood, and the grain filler had been pooling up. I'm wiping off the excess. So when I'm done, there's just going to be a little dip in the wood there. It's fine. But it is nice to use because it does make the grain pop more. It's part of the reason you do it is not just to make it a flawless finish, smooth finish, but to highlight the grain because it makes the depressions darker. Some people like to use clear grain filler, but if you do that, then the whole thing gets more uniform looking, all the same color. You don't get that. You don't highlight how nice the wood is. I was about to strip this with lacquer thinner, the front plate, but some of the joints have loosened up. Check out how this is made. I'm used to things being made more out of plywood, veneered. This is just slabs of wood that are over an inch thick, I'd guesstimate. Then they use lap joints to put the pieces together. And over time it has, the glue has failed a bit, so I recommend you glue before you strip. As if I stripped this with lacquer thinner or other stripper, the residue would have gotten into those voids. And then when I go to put the glue, either I wouldn't be able to get glue in there because the slop from me stripping it would have gotten in there, or it would kind of harden and prevent glue from bonding directly to the raw wood. So make your repairs first. Plus when you clamp, you don't have to worry about marring the finish. Let that sit for an hour or so and then proceed to stripping that. I just ordered up a ton of lacquer for this and future projects. I'll show you where I got it. So I went to order Mohawk toner and clear lacquer, which is what I typically use, and I was having trouble. Place I ordered from in the past, like Pond Cove Paint, seemed to be out of business, or if places did have it, like Rockler, $30 a can, and even then when I would go to those sites, they'd actually be out of stock. I was starting to worry that they stopped making it. The manufacturer's website is certainly still up. And I think if you register with them, you can buy directly, maybe. So I did a Google search, Mohawk, Ultra Classic Toner, Brown Mahogany, which is what they call this product. And I'm getting 2 pages of hits. And some of this is like Empire carpeting and stuff. It's like not even what I'm looking for. Or Mohawk flooring materials. So I tried a different tact, and I went to the Antique Radio Forum, and I just searched for, like, hey, where do you guys buy toner? Where do you guys buy lacquer? And I was reminded about Klingspor. I had heard of them over the years, completely forgot about them. That is my recommendation to you. They're not a paid sponsor or anything like that. But it's $10 a can, which is kind of like pre-pandemic pricing, or not much higher. This is by far the cheapest I've seen it in a long time. And if you're a new shopper, you can get free shipping if you buy 5 cans or more. So I ordered up about 20 cans. This is what I use for clear coating. the semi-gloss, the M102-0415, and the gloss M102-0410. They've been making this stuff, some of these models, the types of fish have been around for like 50 years, it seems like, as long as I've been working with this stuff. Now that's the clear. There's also the ultra classic toners. See if I can pull that up here. Unfortunately, they, well, sorry, that's the Mohawk site. They are out of some of the colors I wanted. So when they call it ultra classic toner, that's right. These are the classic colors they used for years. Medium brown walnuts is what vast majority of walnut radios and walnut TVs use, and brown mahogany is what the vast majority of cans use. So there you go. Ultra classic toner, medium walnut brown. I always try to keep some of that on hand. And ultra classic toner, brown mahogany. It's in here somewhere. There we go. Mahogany brown. 229. That's the good stuff. I want to get dark walnut too for some upcoming projects that are out of that. But perfect brown is kind of close to it. So there you go. So these are the toners that are transparent. There's also tone finish toner, which is pigment rather than dye based. It's not completely opaque, but it's a lot darker. So if you want to do some dark trim, some accent stuff, go with tone finish toner. Otherwise, ultra classic toner. Now there are restrictions on this stuff. They cannot be shipped air. That's been a restriction for many years. So you got to go UPS ground or post office, something like that. But again, if you get 5 cans or more, it's free shipping, and sales tax wasn't much. So yeah, this was a big win. I was starting to get a little bit worried there. So as soon as the stuff arrives, should be able to rock and roll and get a bunch of cabinets done. Man, those guys don't mess around. I ordered this, I think, on Wednesday, and it arrived on Saturday. Remember, this had to be shipped ground. Jeez, didn't need a 10-page invoice, but okay. Wow, really packed well too. They individually wrapped every can. Wow, alrighty. I've never ordered from them before, but so far I am very, very impressed. This is what I needed for the immediate project, the Zenith porthole cabinet, and semi-gloss that's in here. So based on my initial order, I have to say I highly recommend these guys. Kling Spore, not sure exactly where they're located. North Carolina. Oh yeah, that's where all the furniture companies are. Here we are a few days later. I just put grain filler on the main cabinet last night. Still a little tacky. Brought it outside to cure up. These two pieces are much further along. Both have been grain filled and sealed with shellac. I'm waiting for that one to dry a bit. This one is already completely dry. Next up, I'm going to hit them with a little bit of toner. Yeah, they look nice the way they are, but generally wood looks better with a little bit of color added, be it stain or toner. So just a light coating with that. And my order from Renovated Radio Days just arrived with the reproduction Crosley decal, so that will go right about there. At least I think that's the top. Yeah, it's the top. I may want to do a second pass of grain filler on the main cabinet. I haven't quite decided. The grain here seemed to be a bit rougher. So what's next? Well, I'm going to let this lacquer outgas overnight, then put on the water slide decal, let that thoroughly set up, and do a quick pass of clear lacquer to kind of seal it in, and then start putting on the heavier coats of clear lacquer. And this, I'll wait for that grain filler to set up. It's still pretty sticky because it got cool and it got humid over the weekend. So even though it's been a day and a half since I put it on, it's still got a ways to go. If you start putting on finish before this is fully cured up, it'll shrink on you. Alright, grain filler done. Medium brown walnut toner lacquer done. Now I want to put back on all the dark accent trim areas. To do that, I'm simply going to brush it on. I'm just going to mix up some of this artist enamel paint. I got burnt umber and black. I'm going to mix them up to make a really dark brown and just brush it on. I've done it before. It's fine. It adheres to wood well, and then I put clear coat over it. Way easier to brush that on than to mask everything off and try to spray something into all these areas and get a uniform dark coating. So that's what we're going to do. Another beautiful day, and I am just about done. So I did successfully paint the acrylic dark brown paint all around the trim, all around the bottom, around the sides. Quick shot of shellac to seal it, and then got about 4 layers of semi-gloss lacquer on the whole cabinet now. Last thing I want to do is lightly sand the areas where we still have the original finish. It's gotten kind of rough with the sealer coats and top coats. Gotta get that a little bit smoother here as well, and then semi-gloss lacquer over this whole thing, which just leaves the front panel and putting on the decal. Alright, let's see if we can make this decal happen. Water slide decal, I've done one of these in a while. They do include some instructions. Basically, cut it out with some scissors, let it soak in warm water for about 5 seconds, let it sit 10 to 20, position it, and slide the paper out from under the decal, and of course apply to a clean, prepared surface. I do have my reference photo, so I know where it should go approximately. Right about in there. So let's see if we can do this without screwing up too badly. Alright, I followed their directions exactly after I put on some tape as a reference so I could get it centered. Just slid out the paper from under it. Didn't record because I was trying to focus on what I was doing. And now, just smooth it out. Make sure there's no air bubbles or anything. We're in pretty good shape. Stuck to my finger a little bit though. So I know it's centered left and right. I just want to make sure that it's not crooked. I got out my old drafting aid from college. I think that's pretty good. Just a hair down on the right. I think I might have passed the point of being able to adjust it. Oh, there we go. Alright, I think we're good. I'll let that dry for a bit and then clear coat it, bury it under some lacquer. Here we are in the furthest reaches of the basement because I don't want anybody bumping into this thing until it gets out of here, including myself. I'm holding this in place because I don't have the mounting hardware because we need to install the picture tube from the front. So this will not actually get, this will be the very last thing that gets installed actually. Only thing left to do, aside from clear coating the decal, is I need to touch up a little bit where I had it masked off to protect the grill cloth. A little bit on the edges there. Overall, I'm very, very happy with the way this turned out, especially how well the original decals still pop. Now, yeah, there is a slight color difference between the faded original color and the new stuff. However, the original color is in very distinct areas where we've got this faux veneer pattern and where the decals are. So I really don't think it detracts at all to have the centerpiece be a slightly different color. Alright, that's going to be it for now. Hopefully the next installment will be the final one when we get this thing working and all back together. Thanks for watching.